Well, welcome back, viewers. David has decided we're going to push through and finish the series of podcasts because it will finish up and tidy up the testimony of the last 12 months. So, which leads us into something that is very personal and quite emotional for David. So, so where we've ended is he's now been discharged on October the 12th to Tokoroa, to home, where we had to make a few adjustments in David's dad's house because he asked us to look after his house when he went into a rest home.
And we've been doing it up.
We've been doing it up. He's been spending a whole lot of money and tidying the section up and all of that. And with David's dad going into a rest home, his sister had power of attorney over his dad's estate. And I think it's fair to say that we don't get on very well with your sister. And we are about to find out how that actually impacted our situation, our personal situation. So I'll hand over to you to also just explain where it started with the rates bills, and then after the rates bills escalated. So you can
So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but the 6 week of being in hospital, I received a email from a solicitor, my sister's solicitor, stating that if we don't do something about the rates, then we could be in breach of our agreement and in Tokoroa, and we could likely be kicked out. And of course, this is whilst I'm in hospital having a stroke for my own family. I was obviously disgusted, so disgusted. In fact, I got up to leave in the hospital because I am in control and I can sort this out, and had a fall and probably put me back another 4 or 5 days. And obviously emotionally it was a terrible time for that to happen as well. So fast forward to now being out of the hospital and back home in Tokoroa. There was a good lazy boy for me, and there was a little bit of support, but not huge, because obviously post COVID and all the things that happen, there's not too many reliable people that can come and help you. But thank God for my wife. So, and I thought I was had the house sorted. We'd done a lot of work on it, but obviously now I can't. And here I am in Tokoroa, thinking this is my family home. I'm in a safe home. And 2 weeks after I got out of hospital, I got a letter from the estate of my dad's house, which basically saying that we had a certain amount of time we had to leave the house by November the 17th at 5 p.m. and taking all our personal possessions. Now, I contacted my dad, and he basically said, no, that's never, I would never send you a letter from that. And then, how can that be? That's not from me. You're making it up, type of thing.
You're there by my invitation.
Yeah, and you're there by my invitation, and you stay in the house, and you know,
your sister can't do
your sister can't do that. I said, well, actually, Dad, she can.
And she has.
And she has. And I'll let Wanda tell you the next stage, because obviously I was still post just coming out of hospital, and I still wasn't totally, with it in regards to how this could potentially, the ramifications of this whole thing taking place.
Yeah, so the weekend before David was discharged on the 9th of October, that morning, I was spending time with the Lord, and he put on my heart that we will be moving to Hamilton very soon. And I'm like, David is coming out of hospital on Tuesday. He needs a place to rest and recover and to rehabilitate. And I sent that to my spiritual dad, Etienne Blom, in South Africa, and saying, listen, Etienne, I got this from the Lord. Are you able to just check this with me and for us? And left it at that. Didn't hear from Etienne until the 15th. So 3 days after David has just been discharged back to home. We were still learning how to walk up the stairs with him and all of that. Etienne sent a voice note back and saying, absolutely, you have heard correctly. You will go back to Hamilton. You will take up your mandate. Hope Ministries and your places where before the Lord, where you have said that you will take up your mandate, and you need to resume that. Your assignment wasn't finished. You will come back to finish the assignment. He said a couple of things. He said, the Lord also said, it's no time for David to be sentimental, and that he has to be in obedience, and that I will get a job, and that is how we will move. So, of course, for David, he couldn't cope with that. He was like totally in distress. He dug his toes and said, I cannot do this. I cannot do this. The only way he doesn't want to, and the only way that he will do that is if I get a job and if we have a house to move to. Well, those of you who know me know that I have one speed and one speed only, and that is very fast. And I contacted a recruitment agent, and within a couple of days, she already had a position to put me forward for. And on the Friday, the 22nd, at 9 o'clock, I got a confirmation email that my job will progress, or the temporary position, the contract that I was being put forward will progress, which is great, because at 3 o'clock that afternoon, and you see, what I kept saying to David and what was on my heart was, the Lord kept showing me and reminded me of what he's told us previously, is that, my daughter, if I see a door, if you keep praying for a door to open and I keep shutting that door, it is for your protection. Because if I see a man with a knife behind the door, you wouldn't want me to open that door, would you? So we had to see it as I kept saying to David, I see it as a protection. Something is happening for him and I that the Lord is trying to protect us from or against. And I didn't know. It was just something I knew in the spirit. I didn't know what was about to happen, of course. And then when it happened at 3 p.m. on that Friday, we received another letter from this solicitor in New Plymouth, from representing David's sister and the estate, saying to us that they now give us notice. We have 28 days notice to vacate the family property. So she called us, you and your wife. She refused to call me by name. You and your wife will vacate with you and your belongings on the 19th of November. You have 28 days notice. And immediately I said to the Lord, thank you, Lord. Thank you, thank you, thank you, that they did not have the power over us, that already in that time, we were already progressing towards taking back our positions in the spirit in Hamilton, moving back. You've already moved us back to Hamilton, and it wasn't as if we were just sitting ducks and had to be kicked out. So that is for me a testimony of the Lord's faithfulness at that time. Well, of course, that put David in another state of trauma about how could they, the conversations with his dad saying, you know, he was assessed as having mental incapacity, which is one of the reasons why he went into the rest home. He's now almost 92 years old. And so the conversations, we started recording them, because it's like he says one thing this day and another thing the next day. And all of that did was really add to the trauma of David, because we now have to move house. And it is me, because he can't help me. And it's like, how do we do this? After having a stroke and
being in hospital for 2 weeks.
And it's just your own family. Why would they do that? There is nothing bad enough in this world. Nothing that would want a loving family kick out a brother, the only two siblings. the one kicking the other out. Nothing in the world should matter at that time except his well-being, his welfare. And we still shake our heads. We still struggle to understand what could have been that bad. They can justify it with, we didn't want to pay the rates. Well, it's not the tenant's job to pay the rates. They can justify the agreement, paying for the daily living costs. Well, we never used the recycling facilities. We paid for our own. And it's like nothing in this world should have justified a letter like that, kicking somebody out. But either way, again,
we just listen, so you know the full story. So there's always two sides to a story, but we were paying no rent to my dad, but the house was in such disrepair that whatever changes I had to make to the house to get it into a livable state, I had to pay for. So we basically paid an awful amount of money to get the house into some form of livable situation.
Upwards from 34,000. We'll just put it out there. We've got spreadsheets saying that. And but for the sake of time, what we'll do is we'll move on quickly and just say, it so happened that David surrendered to the Lord and said, okay, that's fine. I'll take my hands off. I had friends come over and help me pack. We moved out prior because we then found a house. Again, that's a whole testimony, miracle testimony on its own. But we found a house in Hamilton, and very quickly, within 2 weeks, we moved out.
Now, I also just have to put it out there that I tried my hardest to stay. I rang Etienne and said, well, what do you think, Etienne? Should we be moving? Wanda's going way ahead again. And he said, well, actually, I believe her. She does normally go way ahead, but not this time. In fact, you need to be out of that house as soon as you can.
Yeah.
So that wasn't what I actually wanted to hear. But
there's something else that happened. We also got remarried in that house. That's right. So before we moved, we did some time of reflection, and we did a little ceremony as to what we believe we want to get rid of, and should we go into a new marriage, what we don't want to take along in this, a new season, new opportunity. So we had the opportunity in that house with all of the memories and everything from the family and everything that wasn't right, even, or that we could improve on in our marriage, we actually made peace with in that time. And at that night, the Saturday before we moved on the Tuesday, Etienne did a video call and he remarried us. David asked me to remarry him. And yeah, it was quite powerful, wasn't it? It was.
It's a beautiful ceremony, and I was privileged and honoured to be married again to Wanda, and with Etienne as the marriage celebrant doing that. So that was fantastic.
Yeah. So we have about 2 or 3, well, shall we say 5 minutes left for then moving into Hamilton, moving to the new house, and I started a new job.
All in the space of a week?
In the same week, yeah. So we moved on the Tuesday, we had the Wednesday to unpack, and on the Thursday I started my new job, which I needed to make sure that David had the carers, the support workers in, to be able to make sure that when I leave, because he can't walk properly, he had to take medications on certain periods of time, and he can't dress himself. So obviously he had to have supporters and health workers in, and I can feel that you're really getting tired now. So what we'll just say is fast forward onto the 3rd of December when we went to see our GP, and he said to me, Wanda, unless you really, really, really have to work for financial reasons, I just want to say that you're basically putting your husband's rehabilitation at risk every time you leave the house. Not at risk. He said you're not progressing. He won't progress well because you're not there. And he said because every morning that you leave him in a state of potential abandonment, and he goes back into a state of trauma. Now we did kind of feel that, and we didn't know how to deal with that because I had to go to work. And over that weekend, we said we'll see how we can make this work. We'll call WINS, Work and Income New Zealand. We'll see how it works for me to become his carer and how that will actually work and look. And that was the Monday. I didn't go to work. On Tuesday, I explained to my employers that I really feel that, David, I need to look after David better. And can I maybe work from home? Will they look at those kind of options? And they just said, well, they can't. They are an essential service. This is not going to work well.
Okay.
And then on that Tuesday, when I walked into the house, David snoozes between 1 and 3. And he didn't get up. He wasn't up yet or awake. And I left him and walked into the bedroom at 3:33. Said to my darling, just a reminder, the OT said that you shouldn't sleep long after 3 o'clock. And I found that he was a bit confused. I thought it was a bit funny, cute. He was just waking up. Anyway, he came down the bottom here where the kitchen is, and I realized something wasn't quite right. Fast track that. I started taking his blood pressure. He said that he felt a bit nauseated and that he had blurred vision in his right eye. And, well, he's just woken up, so you kind of give it a bit of time. But very quickly I realized when I took his blood pressure that something isn't quite right. After the third blood pressure spiked, the third reading, again, he was on like 194 at 113 at that time. I called the ambulance. I called his daughter and saying, yep, something is happening. I called my friend and saying, we need to drop the dogs off. I think David is on his way to hospital. And that all happened within the first half an hour of me being home after work. So long story short, that was a second stroke. At first they thought it was a TIA, which is the mini stroke, and because they couldn't see it on the scan. But just like the lunar stroke didn't show its hand fully at first, this stroke, the clinical stroke, also didn't show up. When they realized that he had more loss on both sides, more weakness, more loss of strength, and that his memory and your memory and your speech deteriorated a bit at that time again. On the Thursday, they sent him for another scan, which confirmed clinical stroke. So as it is, he stayed in hospital for another 7 days, and what we have now is, so it was the 7th to the 14th, David was discharged, and we can honestly say, hopefully every day he is getting stronger. You still get tired very quickly. At the moment, you are quite tired.
Yeah.
But is there something that you want to add to that?
Yeah. So listening back to the story that Wanda's shared with you is quite interesting. And where's the Lord in all that? We will reveal that in the next podcast, because I know this is getting to 19 minutes, and we'll tell you what the Lord had in store for us over this huge, horrible second battle.
I can just add, I think, before we go, the neurologist, who wasn't even a believer, had diagnosed David because of the twitching of his left leg, has diagnosed him as having a broken spirit caused by a broken heart. That was actually a diagnosis. So we will talk about that next time. But knowing what we know now, looking back at how it has affected him, not just the stroke, but being kicked out, the immense trauma, the immense emotional setback of what his sister had done, and the shock of that, the realization that, wow, okay, this is what you think of me, and his dad's role in all of that has been the greatest catalyst for the second stroke. We know this because his blood pressure was stabilized when we got to see the doctor on the Friday prior. Everything was medically looked to be under control. It wasn't out of control diabetes like the first stroke. It wasn't anything like that. So, yes, I think, like you said, we will continue what the meaning of all of this was, or what the reflections were that the Lord had shown David, the truth that he had revealed to him in this time. And when you're a bit fresher, we'll record the next ones.
Look forward to it.
You okay?
Yep, sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. We will end this broadcast, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day. Bless you. Bye-bye.
Blessings.